I had to make this video in pieces, and sadly the first piece I made disappeared. So I am going to just talk through these problems instead of rewriting everything. So number one, this is the review for the Chapter 5 test for pre-algebra. So on page 259, starting with number one, they give us a picture of a rectangle, and it says it has a length of 20 centimeters and a perimeter of P. So it doesn't tell us the perimeter, just gives us a letter. Woo. Which equation could be used to find the width of the rectangle? So here's how we start. They told us the length was 20 centimeters. So I wrote that down. We know that the formula for perimeter of a rectangle is P equals 2L plus 2W. So we can plug 20 in for the L right here. And then 2 times 20 is 40. And if you look at the options, this is letter B. So this is the way we could then figure out either P or W if they give us the other. So if we knew P, we could use this to find the width of the rectangle. Okay, number two, they give us 4 squares that form a rectangle when put together like this. And they say the side of each square is 6 units. So they ask, what is the area and the perimeter of the rectangle? So the perimeter formula is 2L plus 2W. And this is our length. So that's 4 sixes. So 4 times 6 is 24. So I put 24 in for the length. The width is just 6, I may have said inches, they just said units, but 6 units. So we put 6 in for the width. Then we calculate that to get our perimeter. 2 times 24 is 48. 2 times 6 is 12. And 48 plus 12 is 60 units. Now, to get the area, we use the area formula, which is length times width. Our length is 24, so those 4 sixes put together. Our width is 6. So we do 24 times 6, then we get 144 units squared. So remember to put squared on any area units. Okay, now we're switching gears and looking at how to solve equations. So let me see, maybe I can cover this up as I go, make it seem a little more natural, so to speak. Okay, so we started here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, hold on. Okay, that'll do. So we have 61 equals 3b plus 7. So remember, our goal is to first get the term that has the variable in it by itself. So we want to get 3b by itself. So we got to get rid of the 7 that's being added to it. Since 7 is being added to it, we have to do the opposite and subtract 7 from it. So we subtract 7 from both sides. So those 7s cancel out. And 61 minus 7 is 54. So now that we have the term with the variable by itself, we need to get rid of the coefficient it has with it, the 3. And since it's 3 times b, the opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So we divide both sides by 3. These 3's cancel. 3 over 3 is 1, so that's 1b. 54 over 3 is 18. Okay, and number 4. This is one where we have variables on both sides of the equation. So on this first one, we only had a variable on the right side of the equation. Number 4, we have a variable on the left side and on the right side. So I think the best way to approach this is to first combine the two variables. And truly, it doesn't matter whether you move the 15 over to that side or the 9 over to this side. Either way can work. I chose to move this one, so it was a negative 9x, so I added 9x to both sides. These two canceled because negative 9x plus 9x is 0. 15x plus 9x is 24x. Now that we've combined the two variables into one term, we want to combine the two constants into one term. Now this time it does make best sense to move the one that's with the variable away from it. Because our goal, just like it was in number 3, is to get the term with the variable by itself. So I want to add 27 to both sides. That cancels out these two, equals 0. And 33 plus 27 is 60. So then we have 24 times x equals 60. To get rid of the 24, we have to divide by 24. And you could reduce this fraction, divide, both those are divisible by 12. So you could reduce that fraction and say 5/2. That answer would be completely fine. Or you can just type in your calculator and get 2.5.
Okay, number 5. 16y plus 24 equals negative 18 plus 9y. So like I said, I recommend the first thing you do to be to combine the variables. So I'm going to subtract 9y from both sides. Get 7y plus 24 equals negative 18. Then we want to give the 7y by itself, so it's just one term alone with the variable. We get 7y equals negative 42. Then we divide both sides by 7, and we get y is equal to negative 6. Number 6, 7 times m plus 6 is equal to 105. When this happens, when you see parentheses, that means we need to do the distributive property. We should do it right away. So 7 times m is 7m, 7 times 6 is 42. Then I subtract 42 from both sides. And that will give us 63. We do 105 minus 42. Last step is to divide by 7. And the reason we're dividing is because 7 is multiplied by m, so we do the opposite, we divide, and we get m is equal to 9. Number 7, s minus 17 is equal to 7 times s minus 5. Okay, this time we do have variables on both sides, but we also have these parentheses telling us we need to distribute. So we're going to distribute the 7 first. If there's distribution that can happen, it should happen first. Now we want to combine the variables with each other. So I'm going to choose actually to subtract the 1s over to this side. You can do either one. You can move the 7s over here or the 1s over there. Either way is fine. Point is just get them together. Then we'll add 35 to both sides. That'll give us 18 equals 6s. And our last step is to divide both sides by 6. We get 3 is equal to s. Okay, last one in this section, we're going to have to do distribution on both sides. We have 9 times 12 plus 4z is equal to 3 times 6z minus 18. So we'll distribute both sides first. So 9 times 12 is 108. 9 times 4z is 36z. 3 times 6z is 18z. 3 times 18 is 54. Like I said, the first step is to get the variables by themselves, so we subtract 18z from both sides. That gives me 108 equals, 108 plus 18z is equal to negative 54. Then we want to get the constants together, so I subtract 108 from both sides. I get 18z is equal to negative 162. Then I divide both sides by 18, and I get that z is equal to negative 9. You are allowed to use your calculator on this, so if that number seems big, don't worry about it. The calculator will be your guide.
For number 9, I felt it would be best to show you what the book says and then talk through it. So the 8th grade class is making digital yearbooks on a DVD. One company charges a rate of $235 plus an additional 75 cents per DVD. So let's pause and talk through that. So this is a flat rate that they're going to charge them. It doesn't matter if they only order one yearbook through DVD or 1,000. They're going to charge them $235 just for them making or printing the digital yearbook for them. Not printing, sorry. Putting it, whatever. You get the point. Flat rate. So that's why the $235 has no variable with it, because that's the same amount no matter how many they order. But they pay 75 cents per DVD. So the number of DVDs they order will affect how much they're spending, because they have to spend 75 cents per DVD. So to figure out the cost there, you'll have to multiply 75 cents by the number of DVDs they want to order. Another company charges $125. That's their flat rate. They charge you that no matter what. Doesn't matter if you order one or 1,000 or anything in between. They charge $1.63 per DVD. So $125 has no variable because it's a flat rate, doesn't change. But it's $1.63 per DVD. So $1.63 times D. So write and solve an equation to determine for what number of DVDs the cost will be equal. Now I'll show you how to get the answer in just a moment. I'll work that out on paper. But I just want to help you understand this really is a scenario people face, is deciding something like this. Because the benefit of the first company is that if you're ordering a lot of DVDs, the fact that they only charge 75 cents instead of $1.63, that's a big perk. That's a good thing if you're ordering a lot of DVDs. But if you're only ordering a small number of DVDs, this is better because their flat charge is lower. So you wouldn't mind paying more per DVD when that's $110 less to start with. So this is actually helping us find what's the breaking point. What's the point where we say, well, if we're ordering this many, it doesn't really matter which one we do. So let's find out. Adjust this just a moment, sorry. Okay, so I just rewrote the equation here. Like I've said before, I'd recommend we start when we have variables on both sides, combining the two terms with variables. So I'm going to subtract 0.75d from both sides. I think that's 88 cents. Let's see. Yeah. So 0.88 times d. Then we subtract 125 from both sides, because just like we combined the variable terms here, we're going to combine the constant terms here. We get 110 is equal to 0.88d. Then we divide both sides by 0.88. And I see the answer in the book. I'm just curious if it comes out to be a whole number if you have to round. So let me check on that. 110 divided by 0.88. Okay, it does come out an even number. So it's exactly 125. So D equals 125 DVDs. So what that would mean for this 8th grade class is if they're ordering exactly 125 DVDs, it really makes no difference cost-wise which company they use. But if they're ordering more than 125 DVDs, they should pick this company because it'll cost less, only 75 cents per extra DVD over that. But if they need less than 125 DVDs, this would be better because the lower upfront cost would mean it's worth paying more for the DVDs they're going to buy. Okay, number 10. These are the ones where they give us an inequality and then tell us to test it at a certain value and find if that creates a true statement or a false statement. So what we're really saying is this number one of the possible solutions for this inequality? So to figure that out, we plug in 15. 3 times 15 is 45. 45 plus 8 is 53. So is 53 greater than 56? No. So 15 is not a possible answer for this, so we'd have to say false. Number 11, same process. We're going to plug 16 in for x and see if it's a possible solution. 5 times 16 is 80. 80 minus 3 is 77. And it is true. 72 is less than 77. So we will say that is true. So 16 would be a valid answer or solution, one of many, for this inequality. Okay, last one on this type of problem is number 12. We have x 2 times showing up here, so we need to plug in 4 for both of them. So 124 divided by 4 is 31. 4 plus 27 is also 31. So this is where the or equals to matters. If it just said greater than, we'd have to say false, because 31 can't be greater than itself. But obviously it is equal to itself, so this one would be true. Okay, 13, they ask us to graph each inequality on a number line. I'll give you a number line on the test when this is asked for, but all we have to do if we don't have one is just draw a line, take the number they asked for. You don't have to put it in the middle. I just tend to do that for whatever reason. And then since it has an or equal to, we put a closed dot there. Now this is a little tricky because it's usually easier to figure this out when A is first. So let me talk about it while it's in this form, then show it to you in the other form where A is on the left side and this is on the right side. So really it's saying -5 is less than A, but we're concerned about where A is. And if you read it this direction, if -5 is less than A, that means A is greater than -5. So we need to shade on this side to show bigger numbers than -5. But it's easier to see if you choose to rewrite this. You can flip the order of this and write it A less than or equal to -5. Now those are the same. It's just like saying -5 is smaller than A. You can say, oh, shoot, not the same. Greater than. I gotta flip the inequality sign. Because if -5 is smaller than A, then A is greater than -5. And when it's written in this form, it's easier to see how this actually points the direction you should graph it. It's greater than, so we should shade to the right. 14 is written more in the form we're used to. And since it has an or equals to, we also put a closed circle. If there was no line saying or equals to, we'd do an open circle. But both of these had or equals to, so we did an open circle. Now this one's written the way we're used to, where the variable's on the left. So it says W is less than or equal to 12. So less than means we shade to the left, because that's where numbers lower than 12 are located. Okay, on 15 and 16, I think it's easier to show it to you and talk it out. Okay, let's see if we can get that better. There we go. All right, so on 15, you always want to look and see where the point is, where it either stops or starts, however you want to think about it. And that's at 4. So right away, I would know I could go ahead and write my x in my 4. Since it's a closed dot, I know I'd need or equals to. There, a little more clear. And since it's bigger numbers than 4, I know it's greater than or equal to 4. So closed dot means or equals to, shaded to the right, bigger numbers means greater than or equal to. Now on 16, we have an open circle at -5. So I know I should not put an or equals to. Closed circle, or equals to. Open circle, you do not put or equals to. And that shading to the left, which you notice this arrow, that inequality sign are both facing the same direction. So, excuse me. Since this number is less than -5, they're being shaded, we'd say x is less than -5. And let's go ahead and talk about 17 on here while we're here. So a community wants to raise at least $4,000. So let's talk about that. At least $4,000. So they want the amount of money they raise to be greater than or equal to $4,000. At least means 4,000 is good, but more is also good. They've been given a $150 donation, so that's just a flat rate. So they've already got $150 of it ready to go. It's been donated. And they're selling canvas bags for $55 each to raise the rest of the money. So they'll also get $55 per bag. So 150, one flat donation. Flat just meaning it's not repeating, it's a one time. And $55 per canvas bag. So we can solve this. We want to get the 55V by itself because it's the term with the variable. So you subtract 150. Okay, and then we want to get rid of the coefficient, so we divide both sides by 55. So 3850 divided by 55 is 70. So we would get B is greater than or equal to 70. And I'll look at the answer in a second, but what that means is if they sell at least 70 bags, they'll reach their goal. They want to sell 70 bags or more. So that is J. They use X, doesn't matter if you use X or B or whatever variable, but it's greater than or equal to 70. So that's our answer, it's letter J. And we'll close out the rest of them by solving some inequalities. 18, -9, greater than or equal to A plus -3. So our goal is to get A by itself. So right now we have a -3 being tacked onto the A. So we want to do the opposite and add 3. So these cancel. -3 plus 3 is 0. -9 plus 3 is 6. So we get 6 is greater than or equal to, -6, my mistake. -9 plus 3 is -6, and that'll be greater than or equal to A. 1954 is less than 6m. So the 6m term is already by itself, but it does have a coefficient. It's being multiplied by 6, so we do the opposite and we divide by 6. We have -5t greater than or equal to -60. So similar to number 19, the term with the variable is already by itself, but we have a coefficient, so we want to divide both sides by -5. And remember, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to reverse the inequality sign. And -60 divided by -5 is +12. 21. 10 plus 4x is greater than or equal to 3 times x minus 6. So you remember when you see the parentheses, you know that's got to be your first priority to distribute that coefficient in front of the parentheses. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 6 is 18. We have variables on both sides of the equation. So the first goal I have is to combine the variables. So I'll subtract 3x from both sides. 4x minus 3x is 1x. And now that we've gotten the variable on just one side, we'll want to get the constants over on the other side. So I'm going to move the 10 so I get x by itself. So I subtract 10 from both sides. we get x is greater than or equal to negative 28. 22. Negative 7 times k minus 9 is less than negative 21. So again, we see the parentheses, so we know our first priority should be to distribute negative 7 times k minus negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. And you've got to remember that minus a negative is the same thing as plus a positive. So we want to subtract 63 from both sides. We get negative 7k is less than negative 84, I believe. Then we divide both sides by negative 7. And because we divided by a negative number, we know we have to reverse the inequality sign, make it greater than, and negative 84 divided by negative 7 is positive 12. Last one. 14n minus 8 is less than or equal to 4n minus 5. So they trick you here a little bit. You see the parentheses, you think, oh, right, I'll distribute. Except there's nothing being multiplied by those parentheses. So it turns out those parentheses don't even need to be there. We can just ignore them and say we want to combine the like terms. So I'll subtract 4n from both sides. You get 10n minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 5. Now that I've got the variable on just one side, I want to get the constants on just one side, so I'll add 8 to both sides. That gives me 10n is less than or equal to 3. Then the variable's by itself, but it still has a coefficient I need to get rid of. So I divide both sides by 10. And that won't reduce, so you can just say n is less than or equal to 3/10. Or if you plugged in your calculator and got 0.3, that's also fine.